What is the primary purpose of a security group in Active Directory? Which group scope allows adding members from any domain in a forest and is designated for access across multiple domains? What happens if a user is a member of multiple groups with conflicting permissions on a resource? We will answer these questions in this video. Welcome to Techno Tips Learning, and this is a video on groups in Active Directory. Currently, I'm working on Active Directory series. So if you want to establish your own lab, if you want to understand the concepts of Active Directory, subscribe to the channel. If it is adding value to your knowledge, share it. And if you want me to make videos on specific topics, put your topics in the comments and I'll definitely create videos on them. Let us begin with our video, which is groups in Active Directory. So in this session, we will discuss introduction, that already happened. What are group objects, group types, what are the scopes of a group, how we can create a new group through GUI and through PowerShell, how do we add a user to a group, nesting, how do we do nesting of different types of groups and different scopes of groups, and then we will of course discuss deletion of the group. So this is the complete management of groups, the life cycle of groups in your Active Directory environment, and how you can manage, we will discuss in this video. So first is introduction. While assigning, it says, while assigning permissions and rights to individual user accounts may be practical in small networks, it becomes inefficient and impractical in large enterprise networks. For instance, when multiple users require the same level of access to a folder, it's more effective to create a group, add the relevant user accounts to it, and then assign the necessary permissions to the group. Now, to understand it, if in your organization, if you are managing, let us say, 10, 20, 25, or maybe 50 users, then definitely you can segregate the duties and you can go to each user and assign them permissions based on their requirements. But what if your organization is like 2000 employees, 10,000 employees, and 1 million employees? So I have worked in all kind of these projects where I have managed groups for all these organizations where the number of users were approximately 1 million. Currently, I am working with an organization which has 6,000 users, and it is very much important. So, to create groups and add users to these groups and assign permission on the group rather than going each and every individual and assigning permissions to them. If there is a file folder which is there, if it is a drive on a network which is there, and you want to assign read write access to that folder and drive, you cannot go to add each employee one by one based on their requirements. Rather, when they require access to the folder, add them to a particular group. So group is nothing, you put people in a group and then you assign the roles and permissions on that particular group. So it replicates its permissions and access rights to all the users inside that group. So we will definitely understand it with practicals. Moving next, what are group objects that I already discussed? Group objects are entities within a directory service such as Active Directory that are used to manage and organize user accounts, computers, and other resources. They provide an efficient way to assign permissions and rights to multiple users or devices by grouping them together. So this is clear, simple English. So you with these groups, you can manage user accounts, computers, and other resources. and you can assign the rights and permissions to the groups, which will be inherited by the group members. Before you implement groups in your organization, you must understand the scope of various ADDS group types. So before you start adding people to the groups, you need to understand what these groups will do. In addition, you must understand how to use group types to manage access to resources or to assign management rights and responsibilities. So yeah, a lot of knowledge I shared. So let us move. I know you are looking for practicals, but first let us understand types of group objects. There are two types of group objects in Active Directory. If we talk about the functionality, there are two types of groups. First is the security groups, and the second is distribution groups. Security groups are the groups which you use to assign permissions to resources such as files, computers, wherever you want to assign permissions, you use security groups. For an example, I have mentioned granting read access to a shared folder for all members of a group. So I'll show you. Second is distribution groups. It is used for email distribution list to simplify sending messages to multiple users simultaneously. So distribution group is nothing. It is just used for sending emails. When the email is sent to this group, it will uh, it will automatically redirect to all the group members. So that is a distribution group. On distribution group, I will not be able to show you practicals right now because I do not have Exchange server installed in my environment. These distribution groups hold good for Active Directory as well as Office 365. So, as my plan when I move forward with managing Office 365, or if I plan to put an Exchange server in my environment, then again we can discuss distribution groups because these are objects in distribution. These are objects in the distribution group which are managed because I can create a distribution group. However, sending the emails will work only if you have Exchange server installed in your environment, right? Uh, Let me find out a good channel for installing, configuring, and understanding the functions and different account types in Exchange server, and you can watch those videos as well, and uh, and you can learn how to manage Exchange on-premise Exchange server. If you are uh, working, if you want me to show it on Office 365 environment, I will show you once I migrate my on-premise Active Directory to Exchange Online or Office 365. Now there is third. It is not a type of group, but it is a function of a group. Now there are security groups, there are distribution groups. There is third category that I'll put is mail enabled security groups. Mail enabled security groups are security groups which you can use as distribution groups as well. So what it does, it provides the permissions as well as it can be used to distribute emails as distribution groups. So a distribution group cannot be converted into security group, but a security group can be mail enabled. So a mail enabled security group solves two purposes. One is providing the permissions. Second is it can be used as a distribution group as well. So mail enabled security groups. A security group can be mail enabled in direct directory services like Active Directory with Microsoft Exchange Server or Microsoft 365 environment that I discussed already. When a security group is mail enabled, it gains the ability to function both as a security group for assigning permissions and as a distribution list for sending emails to all group members. This dual functionality is particularly useful in environments where users need You shared access to resources and also need to communicate as a group, right? So I hope this was types of groups is clear. Now we will move to the third section, scope of the groups. So before, okay, let me little bit, okay. Now these are the scope of the groups: domain local groups, global groups, and universal groups. There is third kind of group which is computer local. So these are all Active Directory domain local groups, global groups, and universal groups are uh, domain Active Directory groups. However, computer local groups are the groups created on your PC. Any PC can create it, and and before we discuss the scope of the groups, let us see what are the groups, and let us see the practical example of uh, security groups and distribution groups. Distribution groups, I cannot send an email and show it to you because currently Exchange server is not installed. I will refer you some videos in my description. You can watch those videos. You can, if you are working with me on setting up the lab, you can watch those videos and configure your Exchange server as well. But the requirement would be getting an static IP from your ISP, right? So it is better to tell you what you need. And if you're looking for Office 365 distribution group, or on the Office 365 environment, I will show it to you in upcoming videos. All right, so this is your well-known environment that I've created for this video purpose. And definitely I want to move to cybersecurity as well. But what I thought is, let us begin. So it would be my practice as well, and it would be it will create a better understanding for you as well. So I'm going on in all my videos with this well-known architecture that I have. So DNS servers is there. So there is a DNS server, there is a forest root, there is a tree domain. So if you have watched my old videos, there was one tree domain which I still need to, which I removed, and I will still configure it. But for this video, we don't need to turn on all the virtual machines. We will work with these two, right? So one is the forest root domain and other one is the tree domain. All right. So okay, so to look into the groups, you go to dsa.msc, which is Active Directory Users and Computers. So you can open it like this, or you can, if you can in the server manager, you can go to Tools and you can open Active Directory Users and Computers. So both ways are okay, no problem. The third the third part would be Active Directory Administrative Center. From here as well, you can launch the GUI window, and from here you can create groups. So you will have to add the snap-ins. So if you see, there is currently no groups created. So there needs to be, if you want to manage it very well, then you need to understand the organizational unit, how you create organizational unit. It was in my last video. And in organizational units, in different organizational units, you can put groups. Okay, but when I did Fismo role installation, I seized some Fismo roles, and that made my servers go wrong somewhere. So I had to rebuild this architecture, and you cannot see like organizational units, the custom organizational units that I created. Maybe in my next video, I'll prepare it first, the organizational units, and then inside those organizational units, we'll create groups. But first, let us go ahead and show you the groups. So I go to dsa.msc, and the domain I would be using is root.local, and in this only we will create a group. So new group. Now, when you go to the group creation window, the first thing you need to know is the group name, and you see group scope, domain local, global, universal. Shortly, we will discuss that. And group type is security and distribution, right? So let us create a group. So we will create kind of group, test group, and we'll make it a security group. And shortly we will discuss the group scope, but let us create it. So see, this group is created. Now, if you want to add users to this group, there are two ways to add users to the groups. You can right click and you can go to the properties of the groups and you can click members and add a member. So I have some members already. In my last video, I created kind of test user one. So I can add it, apply, and OK. This is how you add users to a group. The second way is if a particular user, so this would come as a request. Suppose if I suppose someone is asking you to add multiple users to a group. So if the request is like add multiple users to the group or add members in a group, then you go this way, test group, you right click, go to properties and members and add as much as users like whatever is the requirement there. So you can add them one by one, or you can like put a delimiter which is semicolon and add multiple users there. When we are adding members to the group, I only have one member here, but this is one of the way, and click OK. Now, suppose the request is to add a particular user to a particular group or to add a user to multiple groups, then you do not need to go group by group. There are two different requests. I'll reiterate. Adding multiple users to a group. So this was the way I showed you how you can add multiple users to the group. If there is a request where you need to add a user to multiple groups, there is a difference. If you notice, there is a request to add a user to multiple groups. Then you go to the particular user whom you want to add to multiple groups and go to properties and click on member of. Under member of, you see all these groups. So you can do like administrators, right? And then next group, add any other group. So we created the new group and it was named test, suppose test group. So you can add the group to the user. So it is already added. It cannot be added second time. So this is just to demonstrate how you can add. So now you understand how to add a user to a group and how to add a group for a user. So these are two different requests that you will encounter. Now we saw while creating the group. So let me take you to the group window again. So you saw security and distribution group. So distribution group you can create like test. Suppose I create test DL and I keep it distribution, click on OK. For now, do not go on group scope. So I'll discuss it in detail. Okay. So now if you go here, you can see test DL is there, but I cannot show you right now the properties of this group. So you go properties and it is not mail enabled, right? So and as it is a distribution group, I'll show you. I have So if you put the email address, if you create an email address here and you create it as a mail enable, so there is a command to mail enable a group, a security group, and I'll show it to you. And it will act like a distribution group, a security, a mail enabled security group. So You can see it is a distribution group and that is a security group. So types of groups we have discussed. Let us go back to our slides. Now, okay, so sorry. So first group is I'll tell you computer local groups. So now see here I have this PC open, okay, and on this PC I can create a local group as well. So I'll go to groups, sorry, groups, edit local users and groups. So you can type it completely at edit local users and groups, or you could just type groups, it will appear, and right click, sorry, open it. And the computer root DC is a domain controller. This snap-in cannot be used on a domain controller. Domain accounts are managed with the Active Directory users and computer sign. So actually, this is a domain controller and we are not able to add a local group to it because then it wants all the groups that you are creating, they should be created through uh, the AUDC in the domain. And it is a security feature because anyone can create any group on the local domain controller and then can provide access across the forest. We do not want to do that until and unless it is a file server, but a domain controller, it is a recommended setting. You do not create it as a file server. So we will discuss, we have our Windows 10 machine ready, and for this purpose only I have this Windows 10 machine. So I will open this Windows 10 machine and will configure it. So this machine, Windows 10 machine, is domain joined. I have renamed it to root client, and we will log in with test user 1 and we will put the password. Maybe this password is not correct, but let us see. Okay, yeah, this is correct. All right, so we logged in and this is the first screen that we get. So I do not need this screen for now. And I cannot manage because it is a client PC and it is domain joined to the root.local. I'll show you. So because this is a reinstallation of the machine, and this machine I have joined to root.local. So device name root client or root.local. You can see it here. So okay, but I cannot manage the complete Active Directory from this machine because if I type the command dsa.msc, there is nothing found here. So if you want to learn how to manage your Active Directory environment from a client PC, put it in the comments and I will create a video on how you can manage your Active Directory from a client PC without touching your domain controller, without going on to your domain controller. So the first thing is we, okay, so coming back to the slide after all these deviations, I'll show you my slide. So first is computer local groups that we wanted to create. So how to create computer local groups? So you can go to, on a client PC, you can go to comp mgmt comp mgmt.msc. So it will load computer management snap-in and it will take some time. Okay, so go to groups. Here you can see there are built-in groups. There are access control administrators, backup operators, cryptographics. So you have to right click here and create a new group. So we will name it test domain local description local group for the PC. Okay, and members. So let us first create it. access is denied because I am not the administrator of this PC. Okay, so I currently I'm logged in with my which ID? I'm logged in with test user one, and currently it says you're not the administrator of this PC. So that is a good thing. We got this error, and just let me turn on the fan. All right, so test domain local group for this PC. I cannot, and this is good that we got this error, and we can close it. We already have administrators group here. If you double click on it and you want to add a user here, you can use test user. It will find the test user from the group. Okay, and you click on apply. Ah, because I need to log in with the administrator account, so I will have to. So if you go to this group administrators, you can see administrator is the administrator of this PC. This is another account, and this is domain admins. So root domain admins are the administrators of this PC. Okay, so but our user, the test user one, is not a member of domain admins, and it is not a member here. So you got, when if I try to add the test user one, you will get another error that you still do not have rights, and the access will be denied. So first thing is you need to log in as an administrator. So sign out, and we will log in as administrator first. So I can directly show you, do this in the background. I'll show you how you can create groups, but it is better that you get errors, and that is the USP, you can say, is for my channel, is we get into issues first, and then we fix those issues. So administrator, and we'll put a dot backslash, so you see here, right? Current, there is a local admin on this PC. That is okay, and by default it will sign into root. But as soon as you put administrator, so it switches to the local PC. Now to log into the default domain, you need to put dot backslash. Sorry, you need to put root backslash, and it will sign into root, and we will sign it as a domain admin account. And let us see. So this administrator is the built-in administrator for root DC for the domain, and it allows you to log into any computer and make changes on any computer which is domain joined. So we will log into this PC with this account, and we will create groups, which is the domain local group. This all settings that I'm talking about is right from the beginning. So no skipping, and I'll show you everything live and practicals. So let us see. Okay. All right, I got, yeah. So on this PC, you open again, we go to the same place, comp mgmt, computer management, and you go to users and groups. Now I am logged in as administrator. Right click, new group, and domain, um, local. I'll just simply name it local group on PC. Local group on PC. Description: it is a local group. It is a local group for the PC. And click on create, and close, right? And this is created local group on PC. It is a local group for the PC. Now this is a domain local group. In a short while, we will see what are the permissions you can assign to this PC. Now, the second type of the group is domain local groups, right? So to create domain local groups, let us move to our root DC domain controller and log in there. And we go to dsa.msc and we will create a group, new group, and that would be a domain local group, and you'll create it as domain local and click on OK. That currently we are working only on distribution group. You can select distribution and create. Currently we are working on domain local uh, security groups, and there is one group domain local. We created the domain local. Now we will create one group because to demonstrate and it would be domain global group. So okay, uh, and again we will create a new group which will be universal group. So universal group. Okay, so I'll select as universal. You need to be very precise on the naming convention. You need to define the naming convention uh, because this is a demonstration. This is just to show you how you can do things on your AD environment. But in general, there would be a defined uh, naming convention for all these groups. So for the naming convention, let me open. So that naming convention would be the standard for your organization, how you create groups and how do you manage it. So let me bring my notepad here. So suppose you are creating a domain local, then you can see it like LG, LG underscore, and then you can put a group name. So anytime you create a group, it would be recognized by its naming convention that it is a local group. If you are creating a global group, so you can see GG global group and group name. This depends upon how you want to define the standard. And if you are creating universal group, you can do it like UG underscore group name. For demonstration and for easy understanding, currently I have created groups like this so that we can understand the permissions which we can assign and understand uh, the the nesting of the groups, which group will be nested in which group, right? So these groups are created. So far we are clear. We don't have any issues. If you have issues here, drop in comments, put in comments, and I will try to make a more comprehensive video on this topic. So so sorry. Now we will go back to our slides, and we have created all these groups. So domain local groups, global groups, universal groups, and computer local groups on the client PC. Now, when do you use the, sorry, when do you use the domain local groups? You use this type of group primarily to manage access to resources or to assign management rights and responsibilities. Domain local groups exist on domain controllers in an ADDS domain, and so the group's scope is local to the domain in which it resides. The important characteristic of domain local groups are you can assign abilities and permissions on domain local resources only. So there is First thing, I'll explain permissions, which mean on all computers in the local domain, and members can be from anywhere in the ADDS forest. So I'll take you back to my whiteboard where I have this structure already created. All right, so this is the basic configuration that I have made. Earlier it was different because I had bycus.com other domain there. Right, now let us, in this structure, let us talk about the groups. Now I have this as the forest root, this is the tree domain, and this is the PC. Now here we have already created a, a local group, which is I have created on this PC. And here we have created three groups. I'll just put the short name UG, and I should okay, UG, LG, and GG, which is the global group, right? Now, when we talk about access, so let us go back to the slide once again, and we are talking about domain local groups. So there are two things here. One is assignment, one is assignment, and second thing is permission. Now, if I talk about assignment, this, so domain local group we are talking about for now. So this domain local group, what it can do, it can provide permissions over its own domain, right? Uh, if I create a local group here, it will provide access over these resources only. So the permission it can provide would be on its local domain, right? So if I create a local group in the poemstory.com, it can only provide access to resources, these resources. Talking about the permission, it can add users across the forest. So, or if I talk about the permission, then suppose there are users here and users here. So a local group in the root domain on this domain and in a forest architecture, it can provide, you can assign users across forest, right? So this is what the slide is telling you. You can assign abilities and permission on domain local resources only, which means on all computers in the local domain, in its particular domain, members can be from anywhere in the ADDS forest. So membership is different. Membership you can add from anywhere in the forest, but permissions you can provide on a domain resource only. Now let us talk quickly about the global groups. Domain local groups exist on domain controllers in ADDS. I think I have not done it correctly, so I'll remove it for now. But global groups are, you can assign abilities and permissions anywhere in the forest. So these global groups can provide the permission to any resources in the forest. However, the members of this group can be from the local domain only, can include users, computers, and global groups from the local domain. You need to note this down, and global groups from the local domain. You cannot add a universal group to a global group. So nesting, when we talk about nesting, we'll see it practically. So what does it mean? A global group, this global group is created on any domain, and you can assign permissions anywhere, any of these resources in the forest, you can provide the permission. However, when it comes to membership, when this group will assign membership, it will assign only in its domain. You can add users only from this domain and global groups from this domain. So that is a broader topic when we look into nesting. But for now, users. Let us take an example. So resources can be from anywhere in the forest. However, the users to whom you are adding to the group will be from the local domain only. Let me clean it out because then we need to discuss universal groups, else it will be confusing. So universal groups are nothing but they can provide permission over any resource in the forest, permission over any resource on the forest. And when you talk about access, it can add anything from the forest, right? So it is a better group if you want to like provide forest wide access and add this group to forest wide resources. This is the group where you can do any forest wide activity. So I hope local group, uh, universal group, domain local group, and global groups are all clear to you. This local group, what it can do in the uh, for access. Now, this local group can provide you access only over this PC. Anything on this PC, you can provide the access, right? The permission, and you can assign any of the user accounts or any of do assignments across the forest. So this is again a powerful group on for a managing the local PC. So if you saw when I added the administrator here, it was from the domain, but if I wanted to add some other person from some other domain in the forest, I could do that. So let us do the nesting. So I have these groups on the root DC and I have these groups on the TPS. So let me present my whiteboard for you. All right, so this is the root local and I have three groups here. Local, global, universal. Similarly, I have local, global, universal. I have one user in root local. I have one user in the poem story. This is the DC01. And this is TPS DC01, which is the domain controller for the poem story domain. And this is the domain controller for root.local. Now we will do the nesting. First, this domain local group, uh, let me, okay, yeah, first this domain local group, we will, what we will do is, we will nest this TPS local group and see what will happen. So let me bring my machine. All right, so this is the DNS. I'm trying this new software for, but it is, I don't think it is good. I have to do all this. Leave it. Any other software that you can recommend for marking because it is just the beginning and I do not have a very hi-fi monitor. So domain local group. So we will find in the root DC, we'll go to this. We will find domain local group, right click. We'll go to properties and members. In members, what we will do is we will add this TPS local, right? So add TPS. local, but it is searching root.local. We have to change the location and change the entire directory, and we'll do tps the local, right? And check. Okay, so you see it will not be able to find the TPS local event. It can find global and universal group, but not the TPS local. So if I show you like this, nesting local to local group will not work because they both have will not work. So we'll just cross it. Will not work because this is both are groups at the domain level. Now we will go and we will add. So now you see TPS global in a local group from one domain. You can add the global and universal groups from other domain. So let us see. Check this TPS global. You can add. Yes, I can add because it resolved. It is all. And if I go and search for TPS and universal group, I can go ahead and add. Yes, I can go ahead and add. So to this, if I do the mapping like this, to this I can add, and to this I can add, and I will just stick it correct. We can do it right now. Similarly, if vice versa, we cannot do the mapping like this, but can we map like this and to this? Let us see. So we will go to our second domain, which is TPS, and here I will pick. So local we cannot do, right? But we will go to local properties and we go to members and add, and we add root, and here again you need to choose entire directory if you want to do check names. So this is a local domain. Okay, the difference is this is a forest root, right? Forest root, so it will not allow any other group from any other domain to be a part of this because it is a forest. And but this local group is its local for its local management, local domain management. It can then add other groups for domain management because this is the forest root in the tree domain. As we see here right now in the tree domain, if I try to add any of the domain to the local domain, it won't add. So if so conclusion is like if there is a local group on a forest, it can add other groups except local group, maybe universal or global, from other tree domains, right? But vice versa, if the local group is on the tree domain, it cannot add the any other group from any other domain. Okay, so this is clear, I guess. Hope I was able to make you understand better, explain it better. Now we will see the scope of the global groups. Now we will go to this forest domain global and we will try to add forest global group. Come on, and cancel it for now. And we will go to domain global group, right click properties, and you get members and add. And if I suppose uh, so it will tell you it will only be able to add groups. A global group will only be add groups from its local domain, right? So this is the nesting, so it cannot add any other group anywhere. Okay, so in root now in itself in its own domain, suppose I want to add and universal group, will it work? It will not work because it is a global group. It cannot add a universal group there. Will it add a local group? So the name of the local group is domain local. Let us see. It will also be not able to add a domain local group. Okay. Now for this purpose, let me create a new global group, new uh, group, and I'll name it like tester global, and I'll leave it global. Click OK. Now, in the domain global group, when I go to properties and go to members, will I be able to add it? So let us see. Tester global. So I will be able to only add a global group to a global group. I can assign it to resources. So next when I come to assigning resources, then we will see how we can assign the resources. So that was the global group. So it will not be able to add anything except other global group. Now universal group, if you go, it can add anything, right? So we will test both the universal group here and the universal group here. So let us go to the setting, universal group, right click, properties, members, and add from, I'll suppose TPS, and we'll see check names. No, universal, what was the name? TPS. So you can see I can add TPS user, TPS global. So this group will not allow anybody to be a member of its group other than other global groups, but it can become a member of any other global group. So I can add all these all these two, TPS global and TPS universal, but I cannot add a local group, a TPS local group into this universal group. So we'll cancel it and we will go back to this and let us see what we can do here. Right click properties. If I choose, sorry, right click properties. If I choose add location and we'll choose root.local and we will see what was the name? Domain. So I see here these are the groups in root DC that we can add. These are all built-in groups, so do not worry about it. Let me see what was the name. Okay, so we will add universal group. So let us see universal group. I can add from root and from domain global group. Can I add? So let us see once again and universal group. So TPS universal, we are trying to add domain global, TPS universal properties and domain, domain global I can add and okay. And then the third group that we will add is domain local group. So let us see if we can add domain local. No, we cannot add a domain local to an universal group. So if the domain local group is residing here, so we cannot, there is no mapping here. So I'll just make it simple for you. There is no mapping here, right? So this way it cannot add a domain local group. So this was on nesting. I hope it was clear. If it is not clear, you can put it in comment section and you can let me know if I can explain it in a better way. Or if you have any doubts anywhere I went wrong, put it in comments and we'll try to correct it. Now let us see the accesses we can provide to these groups. All right, so this is the root DC. Now here I will create a new. and folder. So let us see if we can map it. Root DC shared folder. Okay, and we'll go to TPS and we will create new folder, TPS shared folder, right? So both have a shared folder on their own domain controllers. There are better ways, but this is for demonstration. So if I right click and go to properties and go to security, so how do I provide the access? So in security, we see this, right? And here we need to add a group. So we will go to add location. We will select because this is root DC. So we will select the poem story because we are going to provide a cross domain access. So I'll click on OK and TPS. If I put there on this machine, on this domain, I can add access to TPS global, TPS universal, but not TPS local because that is a local group for that TPS domain. So this is how we can provide access. And of course, in this domain, you can provide anybody access, any group access to this folder, TPS universal, right? So we can provide. And if I check on root, so I can provide like domain, sorry. So I can provide domain local and yeah, it added, see it added here. And similarly, you can provide all the access and you can manage the permissions. So no need to do like if you have users in a group, you can directly assign. So first you provide permission to the group and then you can, once you start assigning users to the group, they will have access. So once the system is completely built, I'll come up and definitely show you the OUs, the groups and the users and how you can manage permissions with them. So for now, this is enough. How do you manage? Now we will move to TPS DC01. So I am on TPS 0 TPS domain controller. This is the shared folder on TPS DC01. Right click properties and go to security. Now here on this PC, can you assign? So we will go edit and we will try to assign it to the root.local first. So what are the name of the groups is domain local group. Let us see if we can add domain domain local group. If I do, so this domain local group is from root DC01. You cannot add. So let us just put domain and see. So you can add from root DC, which is the cross domain. So you can add domain global group and the universal group was named universal group. So if I try to add universal, so you get universal group added. So from cross domain only local groups, you cannot assign access to your resources on your domain, but anybody in universal and domain global can have access. So you can assign these. So next thing I showed it to you, I described it and permissions. This is the permissions part, who can get permissions and where they can get permissions. So this was a complete video on groups, right? And trust me, this is when you talk about cross-domain access, cross-domain permissions, cross-domain assignment, it will be confusing. It will be confusing for you as well. For me as well, it is confusing, right? You cannot remember each and everything, so it will be confusing. If you have any doubts left after watching this video, if I have not explained it clearly, or I have not shown it to you very clearly, you can put your questions in the comment box. And as I promised, we will go through our questions after we finish this. So the questions that was put, and am I missing something? Okay, so creation of the groups using PowerShell. So I will reserve this for my next session because I have got a request where I need to create 400 groups in Active Directory. Sometimes if there is a major change happening, and I'll tell you what the change are. There are 2000 shared mailboxes which are there in our environment. Out of those 2000 shared mailboxes, only 1600 are managed through groups. Now, providing permissions to those shared mailboxes, 400 are remaining, and we want to manage all the shared mailboxes through those groups. 400 groups, bulk creation, and definitely we will be using our PowerShell. So I will reserve it for the next video. So far, you have got the concept of what groups are and how you can manage groups. Moving forward, we will tell you how to do bulk operation on groups. Nesting of the groups, I did not use this slide, but I have provided you enough information on this. And deletion of the groups, so you go ahead, right click and delete the groups. So if you want me to show you deletion, this is the toughest part. And suppose I created those groups, and trust me, to tell you all this I have to work very hard so that I can present it to you. So deletion of the group is that simple. It is an irreversible action, you cannot reverse it. And we will look into, see, I have discussed about FSMA roles, I have discussed about OUs, I have discussed about managed service accounts, I have discussed about groups. The next would be users, and uh, if possible, I will try and configure an Exchange server for you as well, and we'll configure the inbound and outbound flow. Once we are done with the complete setup, then we will have a complete list of users, and then we can manage it our ways. That is the reason. It is not that I want to grow my channel, and that is not the only reason I want you to subscribe. Subscribe because I I have learned a very hard way. I have learned through research and I'm still learning. I want this for you. If you are getting benefited, I am more than glad. And recently I got a comment on my channel as well where a user mentioned that he cracked his interview because of the FISMO role questions they asked, and he watched my videos and he was able to crack that interview. And if I show you, I have not responded. So this is the comment. Hi, great, thanks for the video because I got two interview questions from FISMA role, finally got selected. And trust me, when I talked to this guy, he was failing in the interviews because of the basic understanding of Active Directory and FISMA roles. If you have a doubt that Active Directory is going to vanish in some time, you are wrong because as per the latest report, 48% of the companies have came back to on-premise server management. So still Active Directory has a scope, still Active Directory has a job, and currently my role involves a very extensive use of Active Directory. So if you think it is like an old topic, an old school, but it is the most I would not say most because Microsoft stole it from, I should not use this, but Microsoft copied it from Linux, right? So that is a different case, but you always need to understand what is currently in use. So thank you, Radhakrishna 6232, and I'm very glad that you got selected. Maybe my channel is not growing that fast, but if you one person even got benefited, it is a happy moment for me. And congrats for your new job, Radhakrishna. So this was all too much of blabbering, but yeah, that is the reason I want you to subscribe, because after a research and after a detailed analysis and put my experience, I create these videos and they will definitely help you. Any comments you can put in the comment section. Let us move to the question section. The first question was, what is the primary purpose of a security group in Active Directory? The answer is to assign permission to resources that I demonstrated. A security group in Active Directory is used to control access to shared resources like files, folders, and printers. Permissions are granted to the groups, and all members of the groups inherit the same access level. While a distribution group can be used for email, security groups are specifically designed for managing access and permissions, and mail-enabled security groups provide you both the purpose. Second question was, which group scope allows adding members from any domain in a forest and is designed for access across multiple domains? That is universal groups. So universal groups can include members like users, computers, and other groups from any domain in the forest. They are typically used to assign permissions across domains in a multi-domain environment, making them ideal for resources that need to be accessed by user in multiple domains. Third question is, what happens if a user is a member of multiple groups with conflicting permission or resources? So I was assigning groups, and you might have seen I assigned one user to two different groups. Now, on those two different groups, there might be conflicting permissions. So what happens when the conflicting permissions are there? So permissions are merged and the most permissive access is granted, not most restrictive, but the most permissive access is granted. When a user belongs to multiple groups, their permissions are cumulative. This means that the most permissive access applies unless there is an explicit deny permission, which always overrides any other permission. So if you have went ahead and provided deny permission, and definitely we will cover them into group policy management when we have users setup completed. We will configure the group policy management, and I'll show you how you can create a group policy and link to multiple OUs or inside, and that the groups will inherit the uh, permissions or policies from those OUs. For example, if one group allow read access and another allow write access, the user will have both read and write access unless explicitly denied. So one group is giving you the read access, one group is giving you write access, but on the actual resource you have went ahead and assigned a permission that this user uh, can cannot do anything, then only the deny permission will be uh, put on that resource. Otherwise, if two groups are giving read and write access, the user will have read and write both accesses. Now, as I discussed, because I was creating this slide in the morning and I got a request for creating 400 groups. So mainly it was escalated to me because the team which got the request to create 400 groups was scared of doing it manually. So they asked me to do it through PowerShell, and I said, okay, we'll do it. So I got a request to create 500. No, that would be more. 400 groups. How can I do that? Learn, bulk group management in my next video. Thank you for watching this video. Have a nice day.